G'day guys and gal, the Alpha Legion are as mysterious as the Thai lady boys' motives. We've made video after video exploring their nature, their goals, their intentions and their loyalty, and I still often feel as if there is so much more to learn. However, we're going to make a pivot today and ask a more direct question. Where the fuck is Omegon? He's the only still living Primarch that is completely unaccounted for, other than maybe Dawn. Even Jagdire and Lehman we have solid breadcrumbs and theories, but for Omegon he just pulled a Houdini. Or did he? Before we get started, this is so hype, as I'm excited to announce the Omega, a legendary new limited major mini model, as well as use 3 Honor Guard. This is honestly my favorite model from the range right now. The pose is epic, the loadout, the armor, the multiple head variants. We're also launching the model in 3 different scales. Tabletop for all your wargaming needs, perfect to fit into an army or build a new one around. Art scale for those that want larger details to work with. This would be the best scale if you were entering in, let's say, a painting competition, as well as the Titanic scale, a genuine statue of a model to impress your friends with. This is a limited model and will only be around for 2 weeks, so you do not want to miss it. As for the Honor Guard, I really wanted to lean into the tactical nature of these guys, especially since the Omega is on the run and isn't one for ceremony, but I still wanted to maintain some style points. You can get the Honor Guard with the Omega for a discount or get all the models separately. Link is below. Today we'll go over Omegon, where we last saw him, is he alive or dead, and the various clues that allude to his current whereabouts and what he may have been doing for the last 10,000 years. Now let's get into it. There are a few things I need to clear before we get into the nitty-gritty of where our boy has been hiding. Firstly, Omegon and Alpharis were actually opposing each other during the heresy, with Alpharis not even being fully aware of it. Both thought they were serving the Emperor. Alpharis wanted the traitors to have such an overwhelming victory that they would then turn on themselves afterwards, slaughtering each other and burning out the Chaos Gods. The end result would be a galaxy free of humanity but also free of chaos. Omegon thought that was retarded and that they should take a more uncertain, difficult route, the route the setting is currently on. Omegon, however, was second to Alpharis. Most Alpha Legionnaires weren't even aware of Omegon's existence, and although he would often proxy for Alpharis, if he tried to fully take over with Alpharis in the picture, it would just lead to a vicious Alpha Legion civil war that Alpharis would probably win, as his name was the name of the Primarch. It would be a very confusing civil war. So Omegon would do subtle things to help the loyalists, blowing up the space station that was causing warp interference in Chondax, allowing the White Scars to escape the system, antagonizing the White Scars so they would not trust the traitors, and then when Alpharis was killed by Dawn, Omegon withdrew the Alpha Legion from the heresy and gave Horus an outdated defense map of the solar system. Now there is some debate whether or not it was Alpharis or Omegon that was killed by Dawn. The author said it was Alpharis, however the recent Alpharis book had Omegon and Alpharis swap identities at the end, with the Pale Spear being a weapon belonging to Omegon when Alpharis found him, so there is every chance that Omegon, posing as Alpharis, was killed by Dawn. But honestly, it doesn't really matter. If they swapped identities, then the old Omegon became the new Alpharis, and the old Alpharis became Omegon. So regardless, Alpharis died and Omegon lived. But what about after the heresy? Well, the problem is that by the time Omegon took control of the Alpha Legion, the majority of them were firmly traitors. A lot of mini secret battles had taken place within the Legion, mostly Alpharis purging the loyalist elements. Likewise, the Alpha Legion were not told that the reason why they were going traitor was actually to be kind of loyalist. Instead, they were just told to do it and they followed it. So Omegon inherited a mostly traitorous legion, many of which had begun dabbling in chaos. He couldn't just say, "Lol punked, we're loyalists now." It was too far gone. He did his best to keep his legion from total damnation, as they were one of the only ones, other than the Night Lords, who did not retreat back to the Eye of Terror, thus didn't get cum blasted with warp jizz for millennia. So Omegon decided he needed to fade into the shadows, and the Ultramarines gave him the perfect cover for it. At the planet of Escrador, Gilman faced the Alpha Legion and the 2 legions fought. The Alpha Legion were putting on a masterclass of hit and run and stifling the Ultramarines, so Gilliman decided to LARP as Lehman and just fully sent it, breaking into the Alpha Legion's command deck and killing who he thought was Alpharis, in this case Omegon. This is probably what gave Gilliman the confidence to go for these strange and these suicidal attacks on enemy Primarchs. He thought he aced it with the Alpha Legion, so he thought he could keep doing it. However, the sad irony is that more likely than not, this was just a decoy Omegon. We already know that Alpharis and Omegon can infuse some of their sons with their blood, greatly enhancing their power and turning them into demi-Primarchs, strong enough to take on multiple other space marines and even seemingly convince other Primarchs they are fighting their brothers. Now this was the last actual confirmed sighting, or kind of sighting, we got of Omegon, who had now faked his own death and withdrawn from his legion. It was so convincing that most of the Alpha Legion believed him to be dead. Without either Primarch, the Alpha Legion fractured into hundreds of warbands depending on their alignment. Some became Chaos warbands, some became Renegade pirates, some became Loyalist, or 20 other shades of confusing loyalty. When people ask are the Alpha Legion loyal or traitor and the answer is yes, that isn't a meme answer. Most are not loyal, some are both. So where does Omegon fit into all of this? Well, he is definitely winning hide and seek at the moment, however we do have some clues. The High Lords heard rumours of an alleged Alfarius causing issues and sent a team of 6 Vindicare assassins to try slay him. The Vindicares killed 12 Alpha Legion captains who were using the name Alfarius, but it didn't seem to do much. Then a few months later, the 6 heads of the assassins were found stuffed into the High Lord's fridge in the Palace on Terra. Basically one of the most secure locations in the galaxy. There's just no fucking way an Alfarius Alpha Legion LARPer could manage that. To get into that room, you have to get past so much security it's actually obscene. The only person in the galaxy who could actually manage that feat would be Alfarius, or yeah, Omegon. Alfarius was the one who inspired the Blood Games after all, and the dude has infiltrated the palace multiple times. I am of the belief that while hunting Alfarius, and when I say hunting Alfarius, I obviously mean Omegon, but no one in the setting actually knows Omegon exists or what his name is, so I'm just kind of using Alfarius. The Vindicare assassins, who themselves are extremely capable agents, eventually stumbled on Omegon, something that surprised Omegon, so he had to deal with them in the most Alfarius way possible, sending a clear message to stop searching for him. By putting their heads in the High Lord's fridge, he basically said, I can kill you whenever I want, so fuck off. And yeah, it worked. There are some other hints towards the workings of Omegon, a big one being the Siege of Rax. The Siege of Rax is the living definition of a situation that just got way out of hand. It started off with a priest being a bit of a lippy bitch and turned into an ungodly war featuring various traitor legions, titans, a shitload of kriegsmen, the Grey Knights, and demons. The big thing that escalated the conflict from a small issue to big one was when Alpha Legionnaires were spotted on Vrax, which then caused the Imperium to send in Space Marines, and it kind of escalated from there. This was overall a great result for the Imperium, as Vrax was a beacon to the forces of chaos, and if the Alpha Legion were never spotted, thus no loyalist marines sent, then a Chaos Armada would have arrived unopposed, with Vrax becoming a Chaos stronghold that would cause the Imperium a shitload of suffering, orders of magnitude more than it ended up being. I believe it was the work of Omegon sending those Alpha Legionnaires there. There are numerous examples of the Alpha Legion doing something that seems traitorous, but ends up serving the loyalists. Even that warband of Alpha Legionnaires who went to Tsar Drekka to try claim a beacon for the traitors ended up actually protecting it from chaos and were allowed to leave with it by Saint Celestine herself. It's very Omegon coded to manipulate his sons into thinking they're doing traitor stuff, but it ends up being a net positive for the loyalists. Omegon describes himself both the poison and the antidote to the Imperium. A few other theories regarding Omegon at the moment include him actually being Death Row, a mysterious Alpha Legionnaire working with Eisenhorn to try reach the King in Yellow, who is most likely Valdor. He calls himself Alfarius, seems more powerful than normal Space Marines, and is very mysterious. There are others who believe Omegon is actually Cypher, which would explain why Cypher is so powerful. It also explains why he wanted an audience with the Emperor, and why the Emperor himself favors Cypher and helps him out. However, more than likely Cypher is Corswain. It would be pretty fucking rogue if Cypher was Omegon, to be honest. It's important to note that we've probably seen Omegon many times in the lore. Alfarius and Omegon could both mask their Primarchness so effectively that it could fool even other Primarchs. When Alfarius first met with the Lion under the guise of an Alpha Legionnaire captain, the Lion, with his insane instincts, could not detect him. Likewise, Alfarius infiltrated nearly every legion as a Space Marine without issue. The only ones he said were extremely difficult were the Space Wolves. I mean, fuck, during the Heresy, Alfarius disguised himself as Shadrach Medusan, even having fake bionics attached to him and speaking to other Iron Hands without his helmet on. So I would not be surprised if the dude has LARPed many times over the course of 40k's lore and we just didn't know about it. There is also every chance that Omegon is indeed dead and did die on Escrador, Gilliman curb stomping his shit in, but I highly doubt it. Even if that lore originally intended to be his fate, there is just absolutely no way it sticks. You don't have twin Primarchs just to kill them both off in a small span of time, one of them off screen. There are so many interesting things GW can do with Omegon and the Alpha Legion's lore once they decide to turn their attention to them, which will be in like, I don't know, 10 years at this rate. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then pick up the Omega and his Honor Guard. Limited time, multiple scales, you know the drill, this model fucks. Hit the subscribe button, hit the real subscribe button for more alpha content. Join Discord for more memes and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.